Hi, I'm Mindy. Welcome back to my channel. Today is the first day of summer and I am going to be sharing with you my TBR for the Supersized, Super Small Summer Reading Challenge. And this is a challenge that was created by Kim from the Paper Traveler last year, and the super small part was just added this year. And she has a couple of co-hosts, Graz from GKBC and June from Livriamer, and she was asking if anyone else wanted to co-host, and I said that I would. So this is my video about Supersized, Super Small Summer Reading Challenge. I'm so excited. This is a challenge that goes all the way from June 20th to September 2nd. And the goal is to read books over 700 pages and or books under 200 pages. And the thinking behind this is that these are the books on the extreme ends of the spectrum that we don't usually gravitate towards. Giving those really long and super short books a try. And I am absolutely surrounded by piles of books, big and small. I'm going to start by sharing the books that I'm going to read this summer, or at least attempt to read. Hopefully I'll get through all of them. And then I'll give some recommendations of my favorite Supersized and Super Small books. If you need some recommendations for this challenge, I am going to start with what I hope to finish in the last half of June. I've started it already, but I'm taking a break from it until the 20th, and then I'm going to finish the rest of it the 20th through the 30th. And that is The Burning White by Brent Weeks. I had my library loan come in for the audiobook for this one, so I started reading it, but I was able to renew it, and I have the audiobook until the 30th, so now I can wait until the 20th to keep going. I've read about 300 pages so far, and it's 949 pages, just the story. Then it goes into all the extras at the end. This is the 5th book in the Lightbringer series and the final book. So I'm finishing up a series for this challenge, which is very exciting. In July, my big books I have planned are Gone with the Wind, which is over 1,000 pages. I have started it. I started it last year, but I have not finished it yet. And World Without End by Follett. This is the 2nd book in the Kingbridge series. And I would definitely recommend this one for the challenge. Well, not this one. I would recommend Pillars of the Earth. If you have not read that yet, it would be a fantastic choice. Ken Follett has wonderful, huge books. This one is great as well. So if you've read Pillars of the Earth but you never continued, you should. It's so good. I've read 200 pages of that one, 800 to go. Then in August, my big books I have picked out, I have 2, and they are Outlander by Diana Gabaldon. This is the 1st book in the Outlander series. Historical romance with time travel elements. They made a TV show out of it. I hope when I finish reading this book, I can read or watch this show. That would be cool. And then The Fireman by Joe Hill, apocalyptic horror novel, big guy. From the Son of Stephen King. This one is definitely over 700. Let's see. 747 pages. It's about disease, pandemic, where people are getting this dragon scale disease where their skin gets all scaly and then they burst into flames, combust. Those are the big books that I plan to read this summer, and now onto the super small books I have planned. I can't do things halfway. I went real big. So many books! You don't have to read this many books to participate. Could be reasonable. Do one. Yeah. You can do just one big book or one small book. It's really up to you. Here's my stack of small books. That's a lot. There's a couple that I hope to read at the end of June. I went through my shelves and picked all my books under 200 pages that I felt were summary. And here they are. Hopefully I get to all of them. First one is Worst Laid Plans, an anthology of vacation horror. Edited by Samantha Kolsnick. Definitely summary. Vacation stories, I'm thinking there's gonna be white sand beaches with terrible things happening since it's a horror anthology. I'm looking forward to it. And then the other one I hope to read in June is The Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman. This book has been on my shelf for so long. It is finally time to read it. The ocean definitely gives me summer. Now, on to the books I want to add in for July. I have kind of a theme that goes along with a readathon for July, and all these fit it in some way, so I'm hoping to read all these. The first one is, it's a fantasy. Okay. Fantasy Elder Race by Adrian Tchaikovsky. I cannot say that. Tchaikovsky. And a science fiction novella, In the Watchful City. And I'm not gonna try to say that. Maybe I am. Q Lu? Let me know how badly I got that wrong. Next I have They Were Here Before Us by Eric LaRocca. This is a novella in pieces, which I've heard from some that it's basically just short stories, maybe connected in some way. Wild Spaces by S.L. Coney. Can't wait for this cosmic shorty. Next is Greener Pastures by Michael Wehunt. And this one is a collection of short stories, but the whole collection is under 200 pages. I've had some of these books so long, they need to be read. This one not as long. This is one of my newest books, The Woods All Black by Lee Mandello. And this is a historical horror taking place in the Appalachian Mountains in the 1920s, and there is a trans romance in this. The last super small book I have planned for July is Festival by Christopher Golden and Tim Leben, illustrated by Peter Bergting. About a music festival, and obviously that doesn't go well. This is made up like a hardcover comic volume. It's really nice, and it does have illustrations, but it is like a normal story. Then I have 2 small books planned for August as well. Get my last couple of summery shorties in. First one is Let the Woods Keep Our Bodies by E.M. Roy. Amazing cover. Horror is my thing. Lots of horror picks. The woods, camping, hiking, campfires. The woods make me think of summer. Which is why I picked this one as well. The Wilderness Within by John Claude Smith. I got this a long time ago, and I'm excited to finally read it. Back says, "The forest is alive." So those are all the supersized and super short books that I plan on reading this summer, but I thought I would share with you some of my favorite super long and super short books that I've read so far in my life, that I highly recommend. Perhaps, if not for the challenge, then definitely put them on your list to read them sometime. Let's start with the super long books. Well, I already mentioned Ken Follett, Pillars of the Earth, because I'm reading a book in that series. But I also recommend The Fall of Giants, which is the first book in his other big series, the Century Trilogy. And that series, each book is focused on a group of people, multiple POV, and their experiences in World War I. The second book is World War II, and that one was really good too. Fall of Giants, great book with characters, both male and female, both, and from all over the world that were affected by World War I. And some other big books I recommend: The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. This is the first book in the Stormlight Archive series, and I fell in love with this book. It is a big one, but if you like fantasy, this is definitely a must-read. And if you like horror, then Swan Song is a must-read. Swan Song by Robert R Mcon is a apocalyptic novel of epic proportions that takes place after, well, it's kind of right before, during, and right after a nuclear war disaster. Follows several POVs in the United States as survivors try to figure out what life in this new wasteland world is going to be like. Another favorite series of mine is Song of Ice and Fire. Depending on the edition, all the books are over 700 pages. My edition of the first book, Game of Thrones, is not over 700 pages, but on Goodreads it says it is. It's probably like the mass market might be longer. But I definitely recommend A Song of Ice and Fire. Again, huge scope, multiple POVs. I guess that's something I enjoy in books. My big books. Lots of scheming and fighting to get their family on top of the totem pole. My next book is a independently published fantasy book that I read last year, and that is Nine of Swords by Brooklyn Quintana. It's beautiful. This is the first book in the Phineas Fogg series. There is another book out now, and I need to read that. I will soon, but this is a young adult magical school series. And since it is independently published, you might not have heard of this one, and it was really good. Phineas Fogg is sent to this military school to learn how to fight for their country, and this school is set on an island with a lot of really wonderful magical surprises, magical creatures, and a lot of adventures are had in this one. So I definitely recommend this if you want something a little on the lighter side than most of my picks. Next, I don't know if this one counts, but I'm going to say it does. This is Blackwater by Michael McDowell, and this is a bind-up of the entire Blackwater series that was serialized when it was first published. And the individual books are pretty short, but altogether it's a big one. And this is a Southern Gothic horror series about a small town that gets flooded and they have to move, and there's a big focus on one family. Yeah, it's mostly a family saga spanning generations, but there's also river monsters, lake monsters, swamp monsters in this area. And my last recommendation for the supersized books is my favorite classic of The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas. This is a classic tale of revenge, and it is epic. And nothing is ever gonna beat this revenge story. Never. I also have some super small recommendations for you as well. I also recommend for classics The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman, which is my favorite short classic. And it's about a woman's descent into madness, being stuck in a room staring at this hideous yellow wallpaper. I also recommend Revenge by Yoko Ogawa. This is a translated book. It's a collection of short stories that are dark, and I love this collection. They are connected. Each story is connected, has a string going through them that connects them all, and it is one of my favorite collections. I also think that horror novellas is a great option for the super small books. One of my favorites is Crossroads by Laurel Hightower. This book is grief horror about a mother who loses her young son, not young, but teenage son, the grief for her son, and then finds out a way that she can see him again on accident, which leads her to do some pretty extreme things in order to keep seeing him. Another favorite horror novella is Mapping the Interior by Stephen Graham Jones. This is the first book I read by Stephen Graham Jones, and it's also my favorite. I've read a lot by him since, and he's one of my favorite authors. This is about a boy whose father died, and he lives with his mom and brother, and then he starts to see his dad in full Blackfeet regalia. Paul Tremblay says it well: emotionally raw, disturbing, creepy, and brilliant. You will not be unmoved. No, you will not. Or maybe you like short stories, horror, science fiction, short stories. These are I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, the Harlan Ellison collection. Harlan Ellison has some amazing short stories. If you like something a little bit creepy, I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. It's my favorite in here, but the stories in here are all great. It's a sci-fi horror book about the world has been taken over by computers, and this one computer has some people or their consciousness in the computer so that it can torture them for all eternity. That's messed up. My last recommendation for the super small books is Cycle of the Werewolf by Stephen King. A short one, very short, by Stephen King. Fun werewolf stories with great illustrations. There is like a little story for each month of the year. All of the dastardly things the werewolf gets up to. It's a good, short, sweet read. Well, it's not sweet, it's scary. That's everything that I'm planning on reading for the Supersized, Super Small Summer Reading Challenge, as well as my recommendations for some of the best super size and super small books that you could choose to pick up. Let me know if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them. What did you think of my favorite books that I gave as recommendations? I'd love to know down in the comments, and I will be back very soon with another book-related video. Thanks